It's Wednesday morning and we're on our way to Carlsbad Caverns. It's about 7 miles into the visitor center. We have tickets at 8:30. It's 8:26. Yeah, look forward to this park for a long time. They do have a really nice parking lot with plenty of room for parking. And if you're traveling with pets, pets are not left in your car or allowed to be taken into the caverns. So there is a kennel inside the visitor center. Chuck and I are going to do the natural entrance instead of taking the elevator. So we're going to walk through from the visitor center to the natural entrance over here. Next to the natural entrance is the amphitheater. This is where all of the bats will fly out at dusk during certain times of the year. We're going to walk down and then we follow this all the way around, and then we're going to take the elevator back up from down here inside the caves. Here's the rest area lunchroom. I'll note there are bathrooms at the start and bathrooms at the end. You have 3 different options for touring the cavern. Option 1, you can just tour the big room, which is this red line, which marks the perimeter of the big room. Second, you could do the natural park entrance, which is what we're going to do, and it's a self-guided tour on the blue line, which is off the map here, but it's where I showed you we went in earlier. And you walk down the 75 stories and then you tour and connect into the red big room. So this is a longer tour. The big room is about 1 mile. Our tour was like 1.25 miles to use the natural entrance. The third option is a ranger guided tour, and this is in the green here, where you go into a deeper part of the cavern. That is also, I think, a 1 mile tour. It's not as difficult as the natural tour what we're doing. After we parked, we took our timed entry ticket and our America the Beautiful pass inside the visitor center to a ranger who pointed us in the direction to follow to take the natural entrance into the park. This is the amphitheater where the bats come out. They do like a bat program. From early spring to October, near dusk, thousands of Brazilian free-tailed bats fly from the cave to feast on insects. The wildlife in the cave consists of 67 species of mammals, 357 species of birds, with a really large colony of cave swallows at the entrance of the cave, 54 species of amphibians and reptiles, and 17 species of bats. The largest colony is the Brazilian free-tailed bats, at an estimated population of 400,000. So this is an interesting map. The visitor center we just came from, it says you're here. This is where we're going. Distance is 1.25 miles. Equivalent to a 75-story building. Here's the cave. There's like a ton of switchbacks. And there's like swallows. It looks like flying around. We made it part of the way down. Let's see if there is a white spot. It stinks. It smells terrible in here. As you're first descending into the cave and the natural light from above starts to fade, it is incredibly black. It is very disorienting. Your eyes are trying to adjust to that darkness, and it's really hard almost to be able to walk. Because of the wildlife in the caverns, we weren't allowed to use a flash, so our video and photos didn't turn out very well. Carlsbad Caverns was declared a national monument in 1923, and Congress designated it as a national park in 1930. In 1995, it was proclaimed a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Carlsbad Cavern is 46,766 acres. There are 120 caves known at this time, but the number continues to change as they continue to explore the caves. The largest cave is 140 miles long. Carlsbad Cavern, which is what we're going to explore as the namesake of the park, is 30 miles long and was developed for public touring. The Big Room, which is the largest readily accessible cave chamber in North America, is 8.2 acres. The temperature in the cave is around 56 degrees, so you kind of need to bring a sweater along with you and good walking shoes because it's a lot of walking. This is really a place that you have to go to see it. And I also say that because you can't understand how gigantic this place is until you're standing inside of it. but it is just so massive that it blows your mind. We spent about 2 hours inside Carlsbad Cavern exploring the caves. It said you could fit 2 Capitol buildings inside Carlsbad. I was very happy we were able to ride the elevator up 75 stories with a ranger, because the elevator guy was in the parking lot when we arrived, which made me nervous if something was wrong with the elevator. After we left Carlsbad Cavern, we headed practically next door to Guadalupe Mountains National Park, which was established by Congress in 1966. The park is 95% either in wilderness or in eligible wilderness, because it was developed at the time of the Wilderness Protection Act of 1964, which kept the parks free of roads and vehicles. So this is pretty much a hiking park. El Capitan is the park's most striking feature. It's a 1,000-foot high limestone cliff. Chuck and I started out on the Devil's Hike, but I had a migraine and he also wasn't feeling well, so we turned around after a short distance. We left the park and drove to Marfa, Texas, which was going to be our boondocking spot for tonight. We're driving to Big Bend National Park today. It's in a remote part of southwestern Texas.
All right, so here we are at the Fossil Discovery exhibit inside of Big Bend Park.
Long ago, all of western Texas was at the bottom of a shallow sea. Eventually, the sea retreated and Big Bend was on land at the edge of the inland sea. The coastal marshes and estuaries made a perfect dinosaur habitat.
Gosh, the head is ginormous.
The state of Texas gifted Big Bend State Park to the nation in June of 1944.
And just so you can see, this is like my hand, and that's the size of the head. Predator skull. 18 feet long. It lived around 90 million years ago. Wow, look at this one. This one's cool. 21 feet long and 6,000 pounds. He's a big turtle. He's not that little. Up to 39 feet. That's what the sign said. T-Rex. The largest flying creature, up to 36-foot wingspan. And here it is up on the ceiling. I didn't even notice it before. It's ginormous. That is just so amazing. Look at the beak on this thing. It says it's the most common dinosaur found in Big Bend. A hooked-nosed lizard. Bravoceratops. This thing is huge, huge, huge. 7 feet long, up to 28 feet long, and 13,000 pounds. Fossils have only been found at Big Bend. Can you imagine walking around and having one of those come after you?
From the Fossil Discovery exhibit, we drove farther into the park to reach the Panther Junction Visitor Center. One of our main goals at the Visitor Center today was to have the rangers help us figure out where we could get a campsite for tomorrow night. For tonight, I have booked us at one of the developed campgrounds in the Rio Grande village, because we found the website to be very confusing on what we could and could not do to get a campsite tomorrow night. It says there is no boondocking or dispersed camping, so you can't just pull up and park wherever you want. You do have to make plans ahead in order to get one of the backcountry areas. And some of the areas only have a few sites that will accommodate large RVs and trailers. And it requires a backcountry permit. The ranger explained it a lot better. So there are permits for the most popular 23 campsites that you can get online at recreation.gov. I don't think the map explains very well what the characteristics are of each site, but they did have a book at the visitor center that you could buy. Anyway, on this map, the ranger circled the areas where he thought we could go online and book campsites. Of course, a lot of these were full, but we did finally were able to book a campsite on Paint Gap. So, outside of the places on recreation.gov that you can book, there are also other roads that you only can get in person at the Panther Junction Visitor Center. and the Chisos Basin Visitor Center. Up to 24 hours of your first night's stay, which is the day of or the day before. Again, without having a clear understanding of what the sites were and where they were, this was just very confusing to us. Anyway, like I said, we were able to get onto the Paint Gap Road because he recommended this as one of his favorite sites where he thought we would still be able to get into. I would describe the park as having 3 different sections. The Chisos Basin Road is not recommended for trailers longer than 20 feet or RVs over 24 feet due to the sharp curves and steep grades. In the basin, there's a visitor center, the lodge, a couple of really good trails. The window is one of those, and the Lost Mine Trail.
Right, the window view trail. So there's the window. It's the hole between these 2 mountains right there. This is Emery Peak back here. This is supposed to be the tallest mountain in the park. And then it says Toll Mountain. And Casa Grande is the big one back there to the back. So this is the Lost Mine Trail. Has a warning for black bear habitat. And this talks about a little bit about the Lost Mine Trail. So I think we're probably like a mile and a half in or so. But I'm still sweating like crazy. Oh my gosh. It's been a while since we did a steep hike. We thought we were at the top, but we see more people straight ahead. So we're pretty close. We are almost at the end. Is it a better view? There's the view. It's about 2.4 miles over here. So going down is going to be a lot easier. So way off in the distance behind me, we think you can see the Rio Grande River, and Mexico's on the other side. But I don't know how well it'll show up in the camera. Try to get it way up there. It's hot out, but it's pleasant with this breeze, and the sun is kind of going in and out. It's a better view. So we finished the trail, and we are heading back to the van and onto our campsite.
The park shares 118 miles of international border with Mexico. The park got its name because of the Big Bend in the Rio Grande River, hence Big Bend National Park. You can cross over into Mexico if you go on the legal crossings during business hours.
Here we are at the Boquillas Overlook. This is the Rio Grande. I haven't had rain in a while. It's like a high alert for fire. But it looks so shallow and not very wide. You can see a lot of people crossing right there. As far as tracks, like a horse maybe horses. Oh, people bringing this stuff. Boquillas. These mountains back here are beautiful. Very pretty. The Boquillas Canyon Trail. And it's only 102 out.
That's not far.
At 4 o'clock p.m. So we're going to try to climb this. It says it's steep at first, and then it kind of levels out. So hopefully it goes okay. 1.4 miles round trip. It looks steep here. You can see like some tracks, like maybe horses. They look big steps. We saw some horse poop. There's a horse! The trail we just walked down. And the Boquillas Trail. And this is the Rio Grande. That over there would be Mexico. Just saw a wild horse up there. That was pretty cool. And the trail keeps going for a little bit. Maybe another quarter mile. Chuck went just a little bit farther, but this is really the end of the hike. As I turn around, the Rio Grande. Not very wide at all. I always thought it was really wide. This does look deeper. It was shallow in some of the other spots. But, yeah, It is hot. We met two girls and they were like, be careful, because they were like really worried they were going to make it back. It was so hot. There's literally nobody here.
Why did we not get to pick a better one?
I know, I don't understand. We had dinner, which was nice because we had a little table over here that we could have dinner at. And Chuck cooked outside on the little table. And we've been hanging out here. But the moonrise is beautiful. And it's really kind of weird. There's lots of bats, so there's no mosquitoes or bugs, which is kind of nice. But the Park Service has closed like all of this off over here. So we have the only non-generator spot, I think. Everything else has been closed off because they, which explains why I couldn't get anything, because it's 100 and something degrees. And you would think there wouldn't be a lot of people out, but there's a few people in tents. It's probably equal, 50-50. People in tents and people in RVs. Our plan today is to drive all the way back to Panther Junction to watch the movie. And then we're going to go all the way out. And then we're going to do the scenic drive out to Santa Elena Canyon Overlook, which has a really cool trail, but it's washed out, so we can only go a short distance on it. But we're going to do that. Then we're going to take this dirt road back up. It's called the Old Maverick Road. And then we're going to go out to Terralingua Ghost Town, which is outside the park, because we heard it was cool. And then we'll come back in, and the only camp spots that I could get online in these circled areas was the Paint Gap, the first spot close to the road, which kind of stinks. The ranger said these two spots were really good at the end here because it's a good hike to Balanced Rock, but those were full, and pretty much everything else was full. And he liked his favorite spot down here was Fresno, but we did not want to have to drive all the way back down to here to go to Fresno to spend tonight, because we are heading out this way and going east in the morning with a really long drive.
The Ross Maxwell Scenic Drive is 30 miles long.
It's lunchtime. We were starving. I'm going to have some hummus, crackers, and a sandwich. This is called the Mule's Ear Viewpoint, and those are your little mule ears there. Here's the Rio Grande. You can see this huge wall in front of us. That's the Mexico side. Nobody's coming across that. We came into the Santa Elena Canyon Overlook right here. It's the Santa Elena Canyon Trail. Like I said, here's the trail. I think it's washed out at the creek is what I think they said. So we can't go very far. This talks about the trail. Sooty, sandy, dry, thick mud, or flowing water. Follow the trail to the right, named for the brown sign depicting a hiker. Change of plans. They told us yesterday that we couldn't cross because this trail was closed, but it's not technically closed. Somebody just got stuck in it today, like quicksand up into her waist. That's what was going on over there a minute ago. And they had to rescue her out. So they're going to close the trail for good, but they said we can go up a little bit and cross in a different spot. And that's what probably about 20 people just did. So we're coming back to get water and hats. And then we're going to go and get to do the hike. So we're excited. She said we would get wet, but we're okay. This is going to be our last hike, so why not? We started out over to the right there, walked down through this path, and then came across here. You can see our little footprints. And it's really not even muddy, just maybe a little bit of sinking in. And then you have to climb up the wall right here. We made it to the real path now with these little switchbacks. Looks like. Hello. Lots of birds here. Seen a lot of bird watchers. That's one thing we learned, that this park has a lot of birding. There's where we came from. And this is the river. We've got kayakers or canoers down here. So we're on the trail again. Got tall, looks like bamboo on both sides almost. Now we come up to this cool rock. I mean, how awesome is that? Yeah, these rocks are cool because they're like a color change here. The black volcanic to the limestone, I think is what they're calling it. There's a turtle lake right there. You won't come up. Walls are so tall. So this is the official end of the trail because you come to a rock wall and you for sure can't go any farther. Yeah.
You're gonna bust your boot.
Yeah, this is too slick. Look how beautiful this is. If we were in the shade, it would be perfect. But it's windy, but the sun is super hot.
It's a bit of a rough ride on the 4x4 road. We finally made it to Taralingua Ghost Town, and it turned out to be a huge disappointment, so I didn't even make any video.
Coming up on our camping spot for tonight. The road got rough. They told us it would get really rough, so we parked the van, just kind of walked down here a little bit, but this is just all it is. Paint Gap Road is the road that goes between these two mountains here. We thought it might look different, but it doesn't look that different. Alright, so when we get to a campsite, we use an app. Oh my gosh, it's like perfectly level.
1.5.
So if the ball's in the middle, then it's fairly close. Minus 1.9 and minus 2.2. Do you want to level up the front or no?
Probably not worth it for 2 inches.
No.
Let me see if I can.
Alright, so as soon as we stop, Chuck puts the bed up and we put the sunshades up. It's 98 degrees, but that's better than the 104 it was last night. This is probably our last time camping and boondocking, so we are gonna put everything
Although it
up.
had been super hot, we actually enjoyed our couple of days here in Big Bend National Park, and it turned out to be much quieter than we expected at this boondocking spot. And we had a beautiful sunset. In the next video, we leave Big Bend National Park and drive to Austin, Texas, where we are planning to eat some Franklin barbecue, famous as one of the top barbecue restaurants in the United States, so we're really looking forward to that. Then we're driving to Waco, Texas to see the Chip and Joanna Gaines Empire, along with the city of Waco.